It's a feel-good Friday morning cafe. Freddie on standby to always make sure that you have that weekend mood beginning as early as this Friday morning. It's good to have you, and we are happy that Friday is finally here. I know that's all we always wait for. Like, you start your Monday thinking about Friday, and when it's here, you're like, yippee. So that's exactly what we'll be doing. Like, yes, we celebrate the Friday, and we get to enjoy lots and lots of music. It's good to have you this morning, and this is Morning Cafe, special edition of Feel Good Friday. It's all about music and music and music, but importantly, we look at the papers. What has the news world got to tell us this morning, and importantly, we'll also delve bit in some serious conversation. And so this morning we focus much on the real estate economy. Pretty much important for us to understand. You know, everyone nowadays thinks of how they're going to invest in the real estate world. Like, you just get some little money, or you just get some little ideas, and you're thinking, well, I'll go real estate. Pretty much of a friendly environment, but not as friendly as you think. You might need to get some bit of tips as to how, once you decide to get into the real estate entity, how you swim on, how you're able to fly, how you're able to manage and get to that point where you celebrate as many would, because everyone that is there makes it look like it's such a beautiful place to be to, or a beautiful sort of career to venture into. So make sure that you keep it right here. Engage with us, #Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela at TV47KE. And as always, there's a cake for you from Valentine's Cake House. So we have the voucher. You know how we do it, pretty much simple. And I'd tell you to drop your comment on our social media platforms. But at this point, I think I want to encourage that we focus much on the SMS shortcode, because that way I'm able to get your number like immediately. And so once I'm done with the show, I'll call you, because most of you will drop comments on social media platforms, but then when we're trying to follow up with you so we can get your number so that we can send you the cake, or we can just organize on how best you get the voucher, it becomes pretty hard because you do not respond. So let's focus much on the 22047 SMS short code, so that way it makes it easy for us to communicate. Karibu sana. And let's begin the broadcast right away. That is after some cool music from Freddie, and there's still more on this end coming from that way. So that is to tell you, make sure that you drop those requests. Freddie, to make sure that you are sorted. Morning, Freddie.
Morning too.
Uko poa?
Kofiti.
Good to have you this asubuhi as always. And tunataka kuangalia siku iko na nini. Jana ilikuwa International Reggae Day. Sijui kama unajua. Sasa sijui kama watu wa reggae watapata music kama hiyo imepitwa na wakati. Hiyo imepitwa?
Okay. Imepita. Leo tuko na kitu kingine.
Kitu gani hiyo ingine?
Tuko na the first set itakuwa ngoma hizi za kawaida Africa International. Alafu the second segment tutakuwa na soul. Sijui kama kuna kongana na soul.
My goodness, after a very long time we get to enjoy some bit of soul. Mimi napenda soul. Mimi napenda soul.
So mtatume request. The next segment has in maybe some mbili huko.
Let's have some let's have a mini karaoke, like say Freddie anacheza hizo masoul na wewe pia sing along back at home. Just get into the mood, feel the music. It is fun. Soul is soul to the heart. So make sure that you keep it right here. I am sure he does not disappoint, and therefore akikwambia we won't do much of reggae. Trust me, the music that we'll play this morning will be worth the while. So keep it right here, and let's make this show as amazing as we've always done. And my guest, there's one who's coming into the studio. Should be here any moment from now. They'll be helping me go through the newspaper. We're having one who is joining us virtually. That is Wafula Kalistas, and therefore it's important that we are keen first to get to know what is happening in the world of news. I mean, we just do not want to have fun and then tuamke tupate kidogo Kenya iliuzwa, and you're just there, you're celebrating, thinking all is good. So Pia, it's good to just make sure that you're somewhere and you understand what is happening in the world of news. The Standard newspaper, the People Daily, and the Daily Nation are the papers that we have this morning. And of course, we look at what has been captured. Definitely, the conversation on matters BBI is still on. Today should be the last day that these hearings are conducted at the level of the appellate court. But the biggest question is just how then do we get to a point where we understand what way the BBI is certainly something that is worth following. And so we'll be telling you what exactly plays out. We have a team on ground to always make sure that they capture this news. And also right here on TV47, we've been streaming these proceedings live, and today we do not fall short of the same, and we'll definitely get to do that. I don't know whether we've managed to get a hold of Wafula so we can engage him and we take a look at the papers straight. Meanwhile, well, I'm told that we haven't gotten a hold of him just yet, but it's fine. Just to look at the fast stories or the front pages of these particular papers, the Standard newspaper. Let's see whether we have it online. That is the People Daily. And here we are. Daily Nation. This is Daily Nation. Why is it misbehaving on me? Let's start with the Standard newspaper. Yes, the lawyers train guns on President Uhuru Kenyatta, and President Kenyatta's involvement in BBI is, of course, under sharp focus, and the Court of Appeal, several parties fault him for using state resources to support the process. And that is a story captured on pages 6 and 7 of the Standard newspaper. So this is one conversation that is on, and I mean, we all understand that it is what finds its way or across all the newspapers, as we definitely take a look at what is playing out and following up on the same to make sure that you are updated. Like I said, we have my team following up on these proceedings, and we also are streaming them live. We all would love to know what will play out. We know that we do not deliberate as such on this particular matter because it's a matter that is in the courts, but then again, we do not fail to touch on all this, and therefore I can see one of my guests is here already. I wouldn't want to delve much into it, but I'd love to get their view on the same, and therefore once they are set, we'll definitely engage them on the same. Senator Moi roots for Jubilee man in Kiambaa mini polls. We all know that the mini polls are on, and the campaigns as well are on. We have different leaders or different parties going on ground to this region of Kiambaa, this constituency of Kiambaa, just to try and mobilize the people or the masses to understand why they should vote for their specific candidates. And therefore, Gideon Moi was there. And speaking of a scenario where it is important that they vote for the Jubilee Party candidate, and it's going to be an interesting by-election to watch, because it's more or less like a luminous test, just like the Msambweni was, just like the one for the likes of Kabuchai, Matungu were. So it's one that very many are watching to see then what will be the results on whether the ruling party will carry the day or the much publicized UDA. And KPA paid truant workers 227 million. That is in regards to matters business, as captured on page 31, and also conversations on matters grabbed. Real test as Italy face Belgium. That is in the world of sports. You all understand a story captured on page 48. It will also be a very nice match to watch. We'll be having Juma and, as always, Otieno to make sure that you get the updates of the same on our subsequent bulletins or programs. And also the sports sessions, the banter, we definitely have that, and Cheche Viwanjani. And on the Daily Nation, the front page of the Daily Nation, BBI, the case to sink Uhuru Raila project. That is one thing that is a conversation that is here with us this morning on matters BBI. We look at it as we continue. President Kenyatta and French leader Macron discuss bilateral ties, really important. And of course, we get to see that the French president host Emmanuel Macron at LDC Palace in Paris yesterday, and the two leaders addressed key issues, several bilateral and multilateral subjects of mutual interest to Kenya and also to France. President Kenyatta was accompanied to the palace by Foreign Affairs CS Rachel Omamo and her infrastructure counterpart James Macharia, and Kenya's envoy to France, Judy Wahungu. The conversation is on as to what really can come out of these particular deals. The biggest question is always how much are our leaders able to negotiate on behalf of the nations to make sure that if it is not a better deal or a way better than, of course, the people that they are negotiating with, then it's a 50-50 affair to avoid scenarios that we've always been complaining about, that in most cases these people should change us with the kind of deals and agreements that we have with them. You'll pay 6% kilometer to use the Rironi Mau Summit Highway, a story captured on page 7 is also in regards to the projects in the country, infrastructure projects for that matter, and how they come in handy to address matters, of course, economy and boost the economy. But then again, it has to pinch hard into the taxpayers' pockets. Kenya mourns copter crash soldiers, and they survived Somalia battle only to die in training. A story captured on page 3. Really much unfortunate. We all know what played out. May their soul rest in eternal peace. We always remember them, because they are always out there to defend our country. This is our plan to beat DP Ruto. One Kenya team insists that they are together, and so much more. So allow me to engage the guest this morning. I don't know how we're able to get him this. I think we can be a little bit crafty and have him to get the newspaper, so at least we are on the same page as we look at the key papers that have been captured. Also, like I said, I have the People Daily, and so we'll be looking at it as we proceed. But the guest of the day this morning, Abdullahi Elas, governance and policy analyst. Good to have you this morning, sir.
Good to be here.
Yes, as we delve deep into the conversations. The papers have a couple of things to be touched on. I mean, I know we'd love to see what, or we have to ponder some more on what the BBI details, but I mean, also say it's important that we look at some other stories that are equally good. Let's first also pick what has been captured on the People Daily. And this is the second day of June, the People Daily, how Nigerian dissident was deported from Kenya, a story captured on page 3. I don't know whether you've been following up on this, the crisis in Nigeria. There is the conversation of the Biafrans who've called for secession for the longest of time, with claims that they have been marginalized in their very own respective country, having had lots and lots of resources, or their region has lots and lots of resources, yet even with these resources, the country is tapping into the same, but is not giving them anything worth, of course, the kind of resources that they enjoy. And therefore, they've been claiming marginalization and the fact that they've been segregated based on matters, you know, tribe, based on religion. And therefore, for the longest of time, Nnamdi Kanu has been the leader that has been pushing for these talks of secession. It's been quite tough down there, most of the Biafrans being massacred, and also across, there's been battles between the government and the people of Igbo, that is the Igbo community. And this conversation is here. I'm told that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was in the country, but was deported from the country. According to them, they feel like it's the Kenyan government that sold out Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Have you been following up on these stories and the crisis that we have in Africa? And do you think, as the African Union or the regional bodies, we are doing much to make sure that there's, you know, sobriety, that there's good coexistence at the level of the African continent, sir? To you?
Yes.
Yes.
Come again?
It's on the African. This is a story that we're talking about, page 3 of the front page, and of course expounded on page 3. There's this Mazi Nnamdi Kanu of Nigeria. He's one of the spearheaders of the conversation of secession. There is this community, the Igbo community, that would wish to secede from the larger Nigerian country because they feel like they've been marginalized for the longest of time. He was in Kenya, I am told, and he was deported from Kenya to his country, Nigeria. He's been, missing for the longest of time because the government does not take it light that he's the one who's pushing for these secession talks. And therefore, my biggest question then is that, yes, we'd want to focus much on the Nigerian aspect, but also the larger African continent, and the fact that we've not peacefully coexisted as regional bodies, as the African Union. Do you suppose there's much that is being put towards ensuring that there's that peaceful coexistence?
Well, I think, first of all, it is not new for Nigeria to have people who want to secede. You remember here in Kenya, northern Kenya in 1962, voted to secede. And one of the factors that force people to feel that they are not part of a country is either if they are persecuted, either because of their faith, or they are marginalized because they are minority, or, you know, those kind of government interventions.
Yeah.
You remember what happened in South Sudan and Sudan for almost 20 plus years. I think what Africa needs is to have a very effective and efficient governments trying to provide quality life for its people. When there's always anger with your citizens, then you find people will just want to have their own. Under international law, people have the right to secede. I mean, they can initiate that if they don't feel comfortable in a country and they feel they are being persecuted either because of their race or religion or, you know, they are the minority, then they have the right to secede. But creating more countries in Africa and seceding them, how will that solve the current problem we have?
Okay.
In our own East Africa, we have issues. Somalia has been celebrating its Independence Day yesterday. I mean, Sudan has conflict. LRA is still in Uganda. We know what's happening in DRC. The Middle East, part of Libya, and those countries are in turmoil. So,
yeah.
And what happens that brings all this is when people do not have access to the basic needs, that the governments are structured in an elite setup. That what was happening with Nigerian presidents or Liberia presidents, you know, people obsessed with big houses and mansions and looting people and those kind of things. Then what you're trying to do is you are annihilating part of the society that feels they are not part of the system. So if people do not have the basic needs, you know, food, water, clean water, access to health, you know, clean environment, access to good roads, access to housing, it's just like what we are grappling with here in Kenya today. So African leaders, I think some countries have made progress, South Africa, Ghana, Botswana, Zambia, you know, Rwanda have made progress in terms of trying to put good governance in place so that people can feel that they are part of a system. So you remember in one of the investigative journalists by Ghana, few judges were corrupt, but judiciary was exposed. So until we cap theft of public resources in Africa, and Africans try to be innovative by advancing technology, you know, exploring the resources and using them for the benefit of the people, we will have people fighting, we will have crime, we will have terrorism rising, you will have different groups, Boko Haram still killing people, you will have the different factions in Libya, you know, doing all that. So I think African leaders, or should I say African politicians, must come together to know that regardless of how much money you accumulate, you will still die one day. So whether you've seen in part of Nigeria or Liberia or DRC, the people who built those mansions aren't alive today, and those are just, you know, empty houses. So
interesting to question. I don't know, maybe somehow these people then are justified to call for secession and all that, because if you're in your own country and you are marginalized, what more if you are getting into a different country? And maybe that is the biggest problem. And if you look at these people of Igbo, they have quite a huge population. A huge population, I'm telling you, a huge population that actually would warrant them the conversation of having their own country. And it's been years and years of crying, years and years of, you know, acts of, massacre in Nigeria, bloodshed for that matter. One then would question, what is the leadership doing towards addressing this? But just to let it come to the level of Kenya, and after this conversation, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, this individual who's been pushing for the same or spearheading the conversation, has been in hiding, not in the country because, well, the country has been hunting on him. And then he's in Kenya, and then by default, he is deported to his own country. These people of Igbo are not taking it lightly. And it is likely to spark war between, and I'm not saying this, and I'm not even trying to prophesy doom, but based on the kind of things that I've seen online, they call on their very own not to use Kenya Airways. They have taken President Uhuru Kenyatta's numbers. I don't know whether those ones are genuine numbers, to the social media, say, you know what, these are the numbers of President Uhuru of Kenya. Kindly call him and ask him why they had to sell out Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. It is animosity at another level.
Well, you remember what happened in Mombasa, MRC?
Yes.
Mombasa, see Kenya. Of course, it's not part of Kenya. When you do not provide the basic rights for every citizen in a country, then you expect poverty to thrive.
That's true.
Then when you have a country that is languishing abject poverty, then crime goes up.
Right.
Then people will feel angry. Kids will not go to school. Mothers will not access health. Then that makes people to agitate, to secede. So what we need You remember even in South Africa, Nelson Mandela was given passports from other countries for him to survive. So if Kenya is setting a good example by helping other people fight for their rights, then it is not, fit to deport individuals just because governments have discussions or agreements with other governments, and those governments are oppressing, oppressing people, oppressive regimes in those countries. Then we should stand for something as a country. Kenyans or African countries must ask, why is it that there is stability in Europe?
Right.
There is stability in the UK. There is stability in part of Africa like Botswana and Ghana and partly South Africa. All these countries. Every country that has a larger population that is very poor, then you expect to have crime go up and people to agitate, to secede. So what we need to do is first, let us, as an African countries, respect the rule of law. So that don't torture people, don't kill them. You remember today in Kenya, there are people missing.
Right.
In the local dailies, there is someone missing. The security expert is missing. Lawyers are missing. People are found in the basement of rivers, packed in sacks like garbage or clothes, piece of cloth. So if you do not do that, then what do you do to the brother of that boy or that man you killed? What do you do to his child? That's why even in part of Northeastern, when you do not take terror suspects to court, then what are you doing?
Right.
You're just creating more people to take guns against the government. Because when you kill my father or my brother, and you call yourself a government that should observe the rule of law, that's why we have courts. I was proud yesterday when I was watching the Court of Appeal.
Yes.
At least I said we did not take guns to resolve our issues.
Right.
We went to court. You could see those, lawyers, battery of lawyers arguing and counter-arguing, and Court of Appeal judges. That is a beautiful country. That is what we need. That if I am aggrieved as Abdullahi, I should not be treated different because either I am from northern Kenya or I'm a Muslim. No, I'm first a Kenyan, because if you look at the constitution, it does not talk about rights of Christians or Muslims. It talks about rights of individuals.
Right.
It doesn't even talk rights of groups unless they are marginalized. So my right as a Kenyan taxpayer is, if I am aggrieved, I should go to court, which I did in 2013, I did in 2014, I did in 2015 against the governor of County Mandera. So when I'm aggrieved and my country is stable, I should go to the courts and seek redress. That way, when you respect now the rights of other people, then I'll feel that there is no need of me taking guns or killing people. You see, so respecting the rule of law, it's the first principle of good governance. So every country in Africa, including our own, we must respect the law. Yesterday, President Uhuru Kenyatta was referring himself to the Court of Appeal.
Yes.
That is the country we need. That is the country we need.
All right, interesting. And we're going to get to that. But even before we get to that, now that we're talking about Africa and the bilateral talks and agreements that we always have with leaders from different countries, and I mean, we've had conversations of some of our leaders selling out others. And of course, we do not want it to escalate further to such scenarios where we're going to say that, well, indeed, Kenya sold out Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and it wasn't the right thing. There's this story that has been captured, and it's actually what is there in the public domain. President Kenyatta and French leader Macron discussed bilateral ties. Just how positioned or how well positioned are the African leaders, one, to go and discuss bilateral talks, multilateral talks, and subjects that would be of interest to their people? We speak of the resources that we are well endowed with, but in most cases, these resources do not benefit us in any way. On the contrary, they benefit these that are considered to be, people of the West. And that's the most unfortunate thing today. We have seen the president of Ghana, challenging Macron. Do you believe President Uhuru Kenyatta is in a capability to say, you know what, I'm going to challenge you on this? And even as we're having these bilateral talks, we want to get a 50-50 affair where Kenya will benefit, French will benefit, or even better, now that French is in a well-positioned state, how about we try and pull up Kenya? So in this case, let's have, say, a 60-40, a 70-30, 70 in favor of Kenya.
When we say African leaders, are we talking about the African politicians or African leaders?
That's it.
Will always strive and negotiate for better deals for their people. Now, when you negotiate with France or other countries, and you have a bilateral agreement, the first question is, how is that going to help the Kenyan people?
Yeah.
How are that money, how are those monies going to be used to develop Kenyans? If bilateral means people in the executive getting bribes.
Okay.
A senior lawyer in Kenya one time alluded on Citizen that Chinese bribe Kenyan officials through cargo, money that's brought through cargo plane at JKIA.
Yeah.
That was lawyer Ahmed Nasser. Now, you ask yourself, if a whole president, there is an allegation, whether true or otherwise, out there that he's being bribed or they are being bribed by other countries, and the money comes through a cargo plane to the country so that projects are offered to Kenyans or African countries so that people get kickbacks, then at the center of the bilateral, at the center of the deals, at the center of the loans is the kickback need. They don't care about the roads or what happens with them. Now, if that is the priority number one for signing these bilaterals, then Kenyans will not benefit much.
All right, allow me to loop in Wafula Kalistas now that we already have him on standby. He's joining us virtually, and I think it's only fair that we also give him the moment to ponder on this. Wafula, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Yes, we've had a conversation on how best Africa can make sure that we have sobriety, within our very own states, because the situation is getting dire. It is so unfortunate that we're not able to address that. You ask yourself, is it a question of divide and rule? Are we divided to a point where, there's someone who's enjoying what it is that Africa would enjoy in terms of sobriety? And is there someone who's celebrating the downfall of Africa so they can come in and tap into our resources? They can come in and take some of the key things that would make Africa great again, if ever Africa was great at any point. And we are at this point where President Uhuru Kenyatta is in France, to make sure that at least he's able to negotiate on some 2-3 deals with Macron and bring the goodies back home. Can we bank on that?
The in our country, when we negotiate bilateral trade, we need to know what are we benefiting out of the deal. Because if it's about the business, what are we exporting to either French government? Because business bilateral, it means exchange of foreign exchange. It means we need to get benefit in terms of trade and development. Therefore, in my view, I think African policy, when they negotiate, it is about how to market their produce or the exports from their country. That should be their priority, but not to negotiate or to look for loans, which are commercial loans that are now turning out to be expensive to taxpayers. I think that is what I can say, because our policies and our morals as African leaders actually is what we are worrying.
All right. Well, I think that one is one that, we can discuss until the cows come home, because there's so much in regards to this. He raises another point of loans, because in most cases we'll always be there with our begging bulls. But the biggest question is just how best are we able to sustain the debts, sustain our very own budget, and make sure that we do not plunge the country into disaster. Pandora's box for that matter. Let's wait and see what good is then the president brings home from that side of the world. Another story that has been captured, or let's just look at the Daily Nation that we have also, and you also have, and now we go step by step. The biggest stories: Kenyans mourn copter crash soldiers. They survived Somalia battle only to die in training. I think we say, may their soul rest in eternal peace. We received that message, and of course it was indeed quite sad. And you'll pay $6 per kilometer to use the Rironi Mau Summit. I'm yet to understand what the details of the same are. It's a story captured on page 7, but it's all in infrastructure, and I'd love to know, Are you for the idea that there needs to be so much that needs to be done on making sure that we have good infrastructure? Because the conversation on ground is that, yes, we're focusing much on all this. It could be a good thing for the future. It could be a good thing to boost the economy. But maybe it is not what Kenyans need now. Priorities.
Well, I think, first of all, every government or every nation will have, long-term plans for infrastructure and then the short-term plans. The question is, are we using our resources prudently? Are we financially disciplined in our expenditures? Do we have accountability within our systems?
Yeah.
Now, having infrastructure, yes, it's good. But right now, if you look at the current budget by Ukuru Yatan for COVID-related issues, economic recovery programs, close to 40 billion. 260 set aside for the first, so 26.6 billion. Where is this money going? Who are they giving it to? What is it happening? I know it's investment in different segments of our economy, yes. What we need is Kenyans are, I think, the second most taxed in Africa after South Africa. Now, when you are taxed, you expect to get good services. Kenyans, I think, we are virtually taxed on everything. Water, everything you buy, there's an VAT.
Right.
How our resources are used is a key question, very critical question we need to ask. Yesterday, I saw TV47 quoted that one of the lawyers in the Court of Appeal said that 7.8 million Kenyans are illiterate. And we only have 1 million graduates, 58 years after independence. People are still languishing with pneumonia, cancer, typhoid, waterborne diseases. There is hunger in part of northern Kenya. There is crime rate is very high. Right now, you've seen in the last month, few hotspots in Nairobi CBD is turning to be a gang, taken over by 7:30 to around 10. That is an indicator that we aren't doing good in terms of good governance. What the leadership from the executive needs to know is that if they do not invest in the youth who have lost jobs, who have closed their Juakali, SMEs are closing, then is a recipe for chaos. That's why everybody in Nairobi, if you go to the CBD, people want to run away by 5 or 6. No one wants to stay beyond 7:30. There's a boy I promised that I'm going to share his problem today in this show. He comes from Busia, but he works here. He's a boda guy. They are troubled by the city askaris. They took his bike. He has a license. He has an insurance. He bought the bike from this country. They took the bike from him, and then they charged him 20,000, which is extortion, and he slept in cell for 2 days. I spoke to another person this morning on my way here. He said in northern Kenya, people have not received their identification card for the last 2 years, and the government is busy giving us Huduma card. Now, a youthful child or grown-up now, 18, 20, in northern Kenya, wants to get an ID to access opportunities, because no one is going to employ you if you do not have an ID card. You cannot open a bank account if you don't have an ID card. You cannot have a KRA PIN if you don't have an ID card. Now, the people who were born from 2000, 2003, 2002, they're above 20. They have no IDs. They are voters in the 2022 election. Now, if you don't give him the ID to access, the one who is hustling, like the guy with the motorbike, is being extorted by city askaris for 20,000. The police are accused of corruption, asking for 50 bob.
Right.
It's a very rotten system.
It is a rotten system. I have had a conversation with Wafula Kalistas a couple of times, and I can tell you that he is a frustrated Kenyan, and he probably feels like there's more that we need to do. We need to push the government even far. You speak of Nairobi itself. He's hugely been complaining about the Nairobi government as it stands today. I'd probably love to also get his view on the same, and especially on this aspect of taxation. Wafula.
We are faced regressive tax system. As a country, I think we need to look at our policies. Taxation system is not conducive for the business or the common people to business. Because when you overtax people, it means whatever they are going to get out of their business is going to be affected by the taxes that you have levied. Therefore, I think the policies, we do not say that we are not supposed to pay tax. We need to pay tax, but we need to get equal in terms of resources, in terms of services and goods. Just as my friend has said, and the problem we face as a country is misuse of public funds and the resources. Because when you see at Nairobi, we have seen the Nairobi metropolitans trying to build hospitals, but the cost they are using to build these hospitals, is it reasonable? The answer is, it is unreasonable. They are using a lot of money to do small projects. And what we are supposed to do is to ensure, can we be able to have accountability in our system of governance? Because now, if we do not even value the principle of democracy, in Nairobi, someone was appointed by the head of state. The governor was removed. They disregarded the constitution. They have not followed the constitution to replace a democratic system of governance in Nairobi. Therefore, whatever is happening is just money laundering. And we need to tell the government that in future, whatever we are doing, the history will judge you harshly. We need to get reasonable services and goods in terms of what we are giving to you. I think that is what I can weigh in.
All right, well, let's speak on another story that is also on the front page of the Daily Nation. This is our own plan to beat DP Ruto One Kenya team. The politics is on in the country. We still have the conversation of the Kiamba. We have carried a story right there. There's also one that, yes, has been captured on the front page of the Standard newspaper. Senator Moi roots for Jubilee man in Kiamba mini polls. Are we yet to be treated to more and more drama or political drama?
Right now, you hear of the One Kenya Alliance, you will hear of ODM and Jubilee, you will hear of UDA, yes. But why is it that every 5 years, I think the oldest party that has stood for 3 elections is ODM right now, 15 years, I think. The rest have survived. Kanu is almost dead. We have more than 68 to 90 political parties registered in this country. Why are they coming together? One is, there is no a party that has a support across Kenya that can stand alone and mobilize the communities and then sell their ideas and then they can ascend to power. Every 5 years, political parties are either enjoined or have coalition or have agreements, just like URP and TNA did. Now we have Jubilee. Jubilee is now going to ODM. URP has, changed now to UDA, PDR to UDA. There is lack of stability and lack of political hygiene in this country since independence. Political parties are just tools to ascend to power. They're just a bridge you cross, they're done. Because if you looked at 2013 Jubilee and when they were at Nyayo Stadium, the energy and the vibrance and the charisma is dead. Now, the ODM we had in 2013 and 17, it became a sort of reigned chicken that is looking for a shade. Now, Baba is in bed with Jubilee, and he's enjoying the government machinery and power, even though he doesn't hold officially. So, as a country, political parties are only formed, because in Northern Kenya, people don't vote even for political parties. They vote for persons. Sub-clan, clan, tribe, just like now you'll see, you were told that Central Kenya, the Kikuyus were mainly with the Kalejins in 2013 and 2017. Now the Kikuyus are switching Jubilee to ODM. Now it's now Kikuyu, Jaluo, Kalenjin, Kikuyu, you know, just interchanging.
Right.
It is not good for us to base our political systems on ethnic or regions and then expect to change this country. Perception is key in politics. So I think what needs to happen right now is why the likes of Mudavadi and Kalonzo and Weta are joining either ODM or Jubilee. They cannot stand alone. Those three guys cannot stand alone.
Is it so?
I don't think so. Let them show us. Let them show us. You remember the Peter Katekati thing with Chris Kirubi and the late Chris Kirubi through the VP, Kalonzo Musyoka.
Yes.
Peter Katekati.
Right.
There are few men who can stand alone and project their views, because as much as a lot of people cast aspersions on the deputy president, throughout his journey, he proved that he can stand alone, whether he is corrupt or not, notwithstanding, because to myself, he's not corrupt because he was not charged with any crime in a court of law.
That's true.
So anything we do is just speculation.
It's just speculations.
That's why we have courts. So Raila and Uhuru are now together. The president is quiet. A lot of speculation out there that he might. Well, the principle of Machiavelli is that why will Uhuru give Raila the machinery of state?
Okay.
You know, when you give the person the it's not the presidency. It's the country.
Yeah, it's a country.
It is the national intelligence. It's the military. It's treasury. It's everything. Why will people who have been antagonists from 1963
with the very same people who
with
are
the same people just hand out that I, Uhuru Kenyatta, hereby hand everything to my brother. The guy 5 years ago, you told us everything on record. So it just shows how bad manners our political leaders have by not even having some degree of decency in respecting themselves, hopping from one bus to the other.
Let me engage Wafula briefly before I come back to you on negotiated politics, now that you brought the politics of northern Kenya. And you know, we have seen that happening recently. I don't know how best you buy into that. But Wafula, here we are, the politics of the day, and the faces that we have. A typical scenario of same monkeys. I mean, is Kenya yet to benefit out of all these individuals, out of all these faces, and with the kind of politics that, as Abdullahi would say, bad-mannered politics we have?
Kenyans will only benefit if they will start embracing ideas. We need to embrace ideas when doing politics, because we are not supposed to follow individuals. The current conversation we are having, you can see people have deliberately ignored other presidential candidates. There is Jimmy Wanjiki, there is Muhisa Kidui. These are people who are known to us.
But Jimmy Wanjiki just came in the other day. It's not been ignored.
But he's in the system.
He's been in the system, yes, for the longest of time, but just declared his interest.
We are supposed to look at our leaders, what they have, what they want to deliver. Are they experienced? Are they experienced in corruption or in delivery? We need to look at these leaders. And I want to disagree with my friend who is saying that ODM is the only party that has survived for a very long time. ODM only survived on conspiracy theory, because they lie to us. They stand for integrity and a good governance. But what we have seen with the so-called handshake is actually one thing, because we did not subscribe to an idea that the handshake was formed to advance constitution amendment process, because that is what is coming out clearly. So that means even OTM that many people had believed in, it is just a fallacy. It has been focusing on things that cannot help Kenyans. So we want to balance. We need to look at our leaders. There is people who are contesting for the presidential seat, and they are very competent enough. They are experienced. If I talk about Muhisa Kitui, has served the UNCTAD, United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, and he delivered. He was able to be re-elected for the second term, and he is now have come back, and he is now mapping up the country to to start mobilization for his presidential bid. But people have deliberately ignored him. I've seen so many discussions on national TV. People don't want to talk about him. We talk about him. We talk about him.
And what makes you think that his, so to say, good performance in UNCTAD is one that would be reflected in the country? Remember, this is a whole state, and you're coming into a country where there's so much that needs to be fixed. What gives you the confidence that, well, if Kenyans were to look into the direction of understanding what Muhisa offers or what he brings on the table? And remember, we're also good a country of policies and speaking, but we do not get to the levels of implementation. Why should we trust him anyway?
If you look at our country, the problem we are facing is a policy problem, because our policies does not favor trade in our country, does not favor business in our country. We do things that favors the people that we transact business with. And Muhisa Kitui has been on record. He has been lobbying for African to get out of this slavery of being victims of importations. We do not create products for market in the world, but we want to. It's like we want to invest in importation more than we invest in export. We have to look at candidates on what they share with us, because the best way you can know a leader is when you hear about his vision, his talks. We have heard about the likes of Musalia. We have heard about Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga has been a champion of democracy. He has alleged to be defending the rule of law. The likes of Musalia will not know what they stand for. The likes of Kalonzo, Gideon Moi, the people that we are discussing forming alliances. You cannot form alliances just on the basis of tribes. You need to have an agenda. And I agree with my friend that we do not have political, the degree of dissent in our politics is really wanting. We need to work on our morals. We need to work on how we value leadership. And we can value leadership based on what you have done in past. And I can say Muhisa Kitui, he is a performer. He's a global leader. He performed well. That's why he was able to be re-elected for the second term.
All right.
And we can bring him here, see whether he can use the same tactics he performed at the UN to help this country revive economy, address issues of unemployment, and address what we call economic, how can we call it? This is an economic terrorism, whereby people believe that they can import goods to create wealth for themselves rather than creating wealth for the country.
Abdullahi, is that the style and the direction that we should take? That, okay, well, this person has done well in this particular sector, we give them a benefit of doubt and we slot them in there. Is that really how it should be? You probably would say that in UNCTAD he was put in the right environment, maybe into the country. I don't know whether it is going to be a good environment as such.
How old is that organization and how many people are running it?
That's
so
the
it's
question.
Just one person. First of all, I think it will be too naive for anyone to think that he will come to Kenya and tell us, I do this and I will give you. Power is grabbed, power is taken.
Yeah.
If you want power, you go out there and get it. Now, I want to make two quick points. One is that Kenyans are poor. Out of the 48 million, close to 15, 16 million are in abject poverty. The Kenya National Bureau of Standard report in 2020, last year, people in the rural areas earn between 3,252 shillings a month. In the urban areas, it's 5,995. That is the standard of most Kenyans. We're not talking about the 2%. Now, what Kenyans are suffering from was captured by a German poet. It's called what you call political illiterate. The political illiterate is a person who says, I hate politics. I don't care about politicians. Well, guess what? Be my guest. Every decision that is made in this country is political. And I want to read the quote. The worst illiterate is the political illiterate. He doesn't hear, doesn't speak, nor participate in the political events. He doesn't know the cost of life, the price of bean, of fish, of flour, of rent, of the shoe, of the medicine. All depend on political decisions. The political illiterate is so stupid that he is so proud and swells his chest saying that he hates politics. The imbecile doesn't know that from the political ignorance is born the prostitute, the abandoned child, and the worst thieves of all, the bad politician, corrupted and flanked by national and multinational companies.
Sure.
Kenyans must be political literate. They have to participate in the political matters. From the village, people do not know the 2010 constitution. Because how many people speak English or how many people read Swahili? 1 million graduates. Few are colleges, TVET and these. Let's say 3 million. We are talking about 47 million Kenyans who are barely illiterate.
Right.
So we need Kenyans, especially the middle class, to push the government and the civil society to come in and teach our mothers in the village the constitution in a language they understand best. Then from there, we will be an informed citizen.
It's interesting that TIFA releases this poll that about 50% of Kenyans have no idea of what the BBI has.
How do you have an idea of a document you even don't know how to read?
But they signed. They gave 4 million signatures.
Do you know what happens in some instances? People are paid to sign some of these things.
Okay.
Or they even use relief food lists somewhere.
To have
just
them append
get
the
names and theirs, and then some of them use the thumb.
Yes.
In northern Kenya, most people use the thumb. They are just told, they trust, especially the pastoral communities. They just say, Abdullahi told us this, though.
Negotiated democracy.
Well, the one in northern Kenya right now is negotiated democracy is bad. It's very bad. You know why it's bad? When you bring a governor or a senator or a member of parliament through a negotiated democracy, he cannot be touched because he belongs to clan X and Y, because they are the majority. Yet the poor are suffering. In 2013, in Wajir County, they brought a guy called Ahmed Abdullahi, who was the first governor. He did some work. He had his weaknesses. He did some great work until he was one of the best, according to World Bank, and even President Uhuru went there to open project. Yeah. When President Uhuru in the last 4 years has not stepped in northern Kenya. They removed him because the so-called cartels, the brokers of politics, never wanted him because he did not allow them to have contracts. In 2017, the guy they brought in Wajir was the guy they insulted in 2013. All of a sudden, he became the son of Jesus. Now, he's the one you saw struggling at Kenya School of Government.
Yes. When
he was ousted. He was impeached, taken to the Senate. He was removed. When you are that age and you've been in government for 40 years, you respect yourself and you respect the law. If you go to court, you've already been ousted. There was a gazette notice. Someone has taken oath. Wait. 2 governors were in the meeting where Matiang'i was there. How embarrassing was it for a 50-year-old, 60-year-old man who was a governor for 4 years, ousted by the guys who brought him in 2017, who casted aspersions on him in 2013. So it's a brokerage. This negotiated democracy thing, I come from Mandera, but mainly the immediate family members come from Wajir. The people don't benefit. It is only a few clicks. In fact, it's just 1% of the clicks. Mandera County is the second poorest county after Turkana.
Mandera is an interesting one to watch. Wajir, on the other hand,
is in a mess right now.
Is in a mess.
Is in a
total mess. The conversations are on. I don't know how best they handle this. Was it in contempt of court to proceed and swear in another governor? Is he even a governor in the first place? Is he legitimately there? I mean, all these are questions that we're asking. I know you'd want to say something, but first let's loop in Wafula on the same. Sure. And now that we mentioned something to do with this TIFA report that speaks of around 50% Kenyans who have no idea of what the BBI holds, what is in court today, what we're deliberating on, what is likely to change or to give us a tremendous shift in the political scene, and the very same political scene that we speak of what runs the country, of it being what it is that runs the country.
Linda, what I can say, BPI is just a fallacy. BPI, we were told, I had heard the president talking about it, saying that we are in a constitutional moment, that this is a document being tried by Kenyans. But from what I have learned is that the president was lying to the country, because himself is the one championing for BPI process. And therefore, if we want to get everything right, it is very important that Kenyans stop supporting this document. This is a really monster. This is going to, instead of, it is sanitizing their problems. It is not solving anything. It is meant for political witch hunts. Because the president, I've just said that the president is championing for BPI to pursue personal individual interest, because we cannot say these are the documents being supported by Kenyans. I don't think there is a Kenyan who can support English uploaded government, uploaded parliament at the time we are facing high wage bill. Kenyans are suffering because they don't know what they are going through. They need to understand that the system of governance we are having is already expensive. So we cannot in any way think of expanding executive or expanding parliament. If it were the things, if BPI were being championed by Kenyans, then you could have heard of issues of reducing the executive, reducing the parliament. We want to compete on the available positions. We do not want to expand executive. I want to tell people who are supporting BPI that they are doing more harm to the country than good, because what are we going to get out of the PBI? Because it appears as if PBI is being championed by Kenyans. I've followed those people who are protesting the High Court ruling.
Yeah.
I have not heard any Kenyans protesting either in seeking to be enjoined in the case or protesting outside there, the way we used to speak as Kenyans. The sovereignty of people is on test. And what I want to say, I do not want to go deeper into the matters at the court. I do not want to talk about the merit and demerit of the case, but I want to say that the churches or the court has two options. Is either to uphold the High Court ruling and mark end of impunity, or overturn the High Court ruling and start a new discussion, whereby politicians will now use all means to make things work in their favor.
Wow.
We need to fight impunity, we need to fight corruption, and the really corruption, the really impunity.
All right. And Abdullahi, as we come to a close, I know you've touched briefly on the BPI. We cannot deliberate much on this because it's a matter that is in court. But here we are. Well,
it is in court, but as we stand, the BPI is irregular, unconstitutional, null and void. Okay. As we stand.
Yes.
But I want to summarize it with what my senior brother from Mandera, Senior Counsel Ahmed Nasser, said yesterday. He said that so far, Rais Nelson Havi has been revelation in the BPI. He showed depth, bubbling flair, robust and articulation of sophisticated constitutional concept, and displayed remarkable jurisprudence craftsmanship that are lacking in the first 2 days.
Yeah.
Now, he said that, it's very hard to argue against the truth. You don't need to remember the truth. The truth is the truth.
It'll always be.
But as we stand with the BPI, the way it started, the president met Raila, and then they came to the floor of Harambee House. They shook hands. The question is, Raila has no mandate in this country. No one elected him to any position right now. We know he's a leader. He has been in pursuit of power for a very long time. I don't think he was in a pursuit of progress or development, because if he was, why do you need to shake hands? You can just go to Siaya and tell Uhuru, run the country, why do you want to come and then you are displayed and then you want to tell? So it's always been in pursuit of power.
Right.
Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has the mandate of 7-8 million Kenyans. Who did he consult before? He's paid salary.
But don't you agree it has worked somehow? Well, they say that we enjoy peace courtesy of that. Has it not brought some calm into the country?
Peace was disrupted by the same people who brought it. They are the ones who are going to the streets.
Yeah.
They are the ones who are leading these, demonstrations.
So if one of them would have easily gone to Siaya and relaxed,
had Raila gone to Siaya or Bondo and start farming, we'll still have peace.
Interesting.
We'll still have peace.
Yes.
So the question is,
make it brief.
when you are paid, like here, people are paid here, so you can't just do what you want. You consult each other to do something. When you are the president of this country, leading 48 million Kenyans, you need to respect the people who gave you the job.
That's true.
The difficulty of President Uhuru Kenyatta, he is exiting because the constitution does not allow him to run another term. 9th of August, we should have an election, isn't it?
Yes.
He has business interests in this country. He is grappling with who to trust with this mantle of leadership so that his business interests are safe.
Well, couldn't say it further. Thank you so much. And the last speaker of the day, Abdullahi Alas. I hope we'd have you some other time again, because this one we had to push it a little bit first. But thank you so much for the great insights, governance and policy analyst, and virtually Wafula Kalista's political analyst. And in a few, we'll also be having George Mburu as we focus much on what is happening in the real estate world. Remember, it's about the economy and how then best these people in the real estate entity are able to balance this too. So let's take a short break. We come back with more. Freddie is still on standby, so keep the requests coming.